All right, here we go. So we are with director Hellin Kay, the director of the short film Elby and Emily Go to Palm Springs. Hey, hi Helen.
Hey guys, hey.
Hi, it's good to have you here. Thanks for taking the time for this very quick interview. I must say that as soon as we saw your film, we immediately decided to include it in our program to select it for our 35th edition of MiX Festival because we had a lot of fun. And at the same time, we thought it touches upon quite deep topics. So with a nice and fun flavor. It looks like a light film, but it's not. It's really deep in understanding how relationships actually work. But before going to speak about the movie, I would like to ask you quite briefly to introduce yourself and give us a quick snapshot of your professional life and background.
So I went to film school at Bard College in upstate New York, and I actually started making films when I was in high school, believe it or not, in the late 80s, early 90s. And when I went to film school, I made 7 shorts while I was there, and they all screened at film festivals. They won awards. They were written up in Filmmaker Magazine and The Village Voice by Amy Tobin. And it was really hard to make a living in the 90s as a female director. It was just nearly impossible. So I ended up working in the fashion publishing world for a lot of years. I worked as the fashion director for Vogue Russia, which is why I was in Milano a lot for the fashion weeks. And I worked as a fashion photographer and a fashion editor for a good number of years. And I continued to direct music videos and short films whenever I could. But it was just very difficult to earn a living. And so, but about 10 years ago, wow, I can't believe it's been 10 years. Yeah, 10 years ago, I was working with a celebrity client, Taryn Manning, who is on the show Orange is the New Black. She plays Pennsatucky. And I worked with her for several years as her stylist. And she had seen some of my music videos and film work, and she loved them. And so she asked me to direct 2 music videos of hers, because she's also a musician. And I just, from that moment, my main focus became just, I have to start directing full time again, because things had finally started changing in our industry as well. More queer stories were being told, women's stories were being told, immigrant stories were being told. So that is, yeah. And a few years ago in 2017, I made another short film called Anatomy with an old model friend of mine who's wonderful, Taylor Foster. You might recognize her face if you ever see her. Yeah, and that's the short long of it. I used to actually work as a stylist pretty regularly for Italian Vogue, which might
Oh wow.
Yeah, I worked with Deborah Turbeville, who shot a lot for Italian Vogue and L'Uomo Vogue. So, and I was her main stylist for about 3 years between, I want to say 2001 and 2004. So quite a while ago, about 20 years ago, but so yes, I love Italy, and I'm thrilled to be part of the festival. I'm thrilled to be here. But yeah, that is the short long of it.
Well, thank you also for the compliments to Italy. So you said it was pretty hard for a female and I guess a queer filmmaker back then to make a living. So how things have changed now, if they have changed, which I think so.
Well, I wasn't out as queer when I was in college, but I was bi. I was sleeping, honestly, when I was growing up in the 90s, and I'm sure you can relate to, or, there'll be people out there who can relate, this word queer was not out there. And when I was making films in college, they actually were gay, lesbian, queer stories. But, I didn't even think of it that way because they were just my stories. Do you know what I mean? And there wasn't this definition of queer. And when I was growing up, I didn't think of myself as straight. I didn't think of myself as gay. I could never relate to bi. I just went around the world and did what felt good to me and what felt right for me. And so, but these stories were not being told, like we would get very excited at seeing films like The Watermelon Woman, Cheryl Dunye, who is incredible. And, obviously, Rose Troche and, all of these filmmakers that were coming out in the 90s that were starting to make these stories. And now it's just so different. It's so incredible. And it gives me so much joy and hope to watch, all of these stories. I mean, just in the last year alone, you know, Lena Waithe and Ava DuVernay have just done such an incredible job of bringing these stories. And also, you know, Genji Kohan with Orange is the New Black. You know, what a powerful, powerful, incredible show. So I just feel like I'm living in a fantasy world, to be honest, to have all these stories and to have the opportunities. You know, we still have a long way to go because it's still a struggle, obviously. And when I look back at Russia, where I was born, and I see how difficult it is for the LGBTQ community there, my heart shatters. You know, so, but in terms of LA and Hollywood, you know, it's a different world. So I don't know if I answered your question. I kind of meandered around it a little, but.
Oh, you absolutely did. Thanks for this. So this leads me quite nicely in the next questions I wanted to ask you, which is whether you're interested in queer stories in particular, if you have ever always shot and created queer stories. If this is
Yeah, absolutely. I am definitely interested, and absolutely. And it's interesting because, again, you know, when I was making films, when I was 19, 20, 21, I naturally gravitated to telling these stories because they were questions I was asking myself. One of my early films was called Every Woman Was Once a Little Girl with Dreams. And it's about a woman who's contemplating a marriage proposal from her boyfriend. And she's debating whether she wants to say yes because she's finding herself attracted to women as well. She's also attracted to him, but she's also attracted to women. And in the end, she says no. And I actually have a shot of, do you guys remember that old magazine called On Our Backs? It was a lesbian magazine from the 80s. I think they closed down by the 90s, maybe 80s, 90s. It was called On Our Backs. And I have a copy of that magazine in the film. Like, she's reading it, which is funny. But so and there are BDSM scenes in that film, which was kind of, you know, it was edgy for that time. This was 1994, 95. Yeah. So anyway, yes, I have always told these stories in one way or another. One of my first shorts in 1993 was about a drag queen from Baltimore who was one of my closest friends. And so I've always been part of the LGBTQ film festivals and film stories, and just simply because they were my stories and my friends' stories. So yes, absolutely.
Sorry, but was On Our Back like an erotic magazine?
It was kind of everything.
Right.
It was everything. It was, yeah.
I think it was quoted in the documentary Ahead of the Curve, which we are also showcasing at MiX Festival this year by Jen Brainin and Rivka Beth, and
Yes.
tells the story of the magazine The Curve, formerly known as The Nerve, which is the story of this lesbian magazine that was quite popular in the United States.
That's so cool.
They put On Our Back. I think they did.
Yeah.
I selected it, so I cannot remember that. Well, good. Thank you.
That's really cool.
I really, really wish that you continue to tell our stories, and this is why this also I wanted to ask you, what are your next projects or current projects?
So, yeah, no, I'm really excited. I have a new feature that we've just started fundraising for and casting for. It's about Janis Joplin's senior year of high school.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'm really excited. It's because to me, she was the first punk rocker. She was one of the first queer punk rockers too. You know, she was very, I don't want to say ahead of her time, because the time that you're in is the time you're supposed to be there, I think, you know, but she just was this magical creature in every way. And, you know, she was bullied all through high school. She was bullied as an adult. And my film will basically tell some of those stories of what high school was like for her, which you can imagine in 1959, you know, in East Texas, America, for someone like her who was just an artist, a queer artist from birth, basically, you know, just, awesome. So yeah, I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, cool, really excited. Also, of course, like great art comes from pain in a way. So surely Janis Joplin knew what she was saying in a way. All right, Helen. Well, our time has come to an end, but I thank you ever so much for this interview and for opening up your thoughts and hearts to us. And before saying goodbye, I would ask you if you could make greetings to our audience at MiX Festival.
Thank you so much for having me, by the way. We're really excited and I'm thrilled to be part of the festival. So thank you. But I will say hello. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for watching Abby and Emily go to Palm Springs. I hope you fall in love with them while they're falling in love with each other and, you know, connect with them somehow. And hopefully it reminds you of the good and the bad of relationships. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Eileen. Have a good day ahead.
Thanks so much.
Take care. Bye. Bye-bye.